I know this crowd is not for me, okay? And it's so, I mean, I'm amazed with the kind of panelists we have. All the guys who's who in the country. I think on the private sector side, we have captured literally everything, right? So thank you guys for joining us. I think before we proceed, maybe I know it's again not scripted. Maybe quick two minutes bite on what's happening on the digital side, what's working happening on your organization side. I know it's not scripted. I just want a 2 minute bites from each one of you on your perspective on digital, how bank is performing, and then we'll go into actual questions. Let's go around, right? I'll come back in a more structured way, but I thought this is my chance to ask some.
Branches selling it, we don't count it in our digital numbers. Uh, and also the vice versa, right? Like if the sourcing is digital, but then the process is physical, we don't count it in our numbers. So for us, digital is now, depending on the product, between 7 to 80% of business. We are already at scale. Our balance sheet, we have a separate P&L, separate balance sheet for digital. It's kind of reasonably at scale, 5-digit crores we are at. Uh, in terms of progress we made, bunch of stuff has worked. So there were two kind of early calls we made on digital that has worked out for well for us. First is to set up digital like a business unit. So it's a separate unit, separate P&L and so on and so forth. The second one was we said if you have to win in the digital world, we have to have digital native capabilities. So we've gone out and built a lot of capabilities in-house. Today, our digital team, my team is about 550 people. We have 550 people. We have about 200-member engineering team. So we have a full stack engineering team. We have about 35-40 people design team. And then we have product folks and channel folks and digital marketing and so on and so forth. Uh, and by the way, it started to deliver results. Axis Bank today is the highest rated mobile banking app in the world. So we have an app rating of 4.8 on the Play Store. It's the highest rated mobile banking app in the world. It is the highest rated financial services app in India. We couldn't do a global financial services comparison. So I can't claim that we are the highest rated financial services app in the world. But from whatever we've seen, we've done quite well. And by the way, we have now 19 lakh reviews on the Play Store. So this is not something that we can fudge either. And the business is growing and so on and so forth. So stuff is working well. We are looking forward to the next 3-4 years when this should scale up even further.
Fantastic. In fact, my suggestion to many of you is that look at the annual report and maybe strategy from Axis Bank, one of the best decks you can get there, and everything is written there. I mean, the way they are building Neo and the other stuff they are doing. But coming to Kotak, you started early, right? I think bank started really early. So maybe your perspective will be very different because they started late and everybody knew that Axis was late to the party, but you were ahead. So any thoughts on the work is gone about?
So I think being a small or a mid-sized bank, that was our advantage because
Kotak is small and mid, okay?
yeah. No, I think we are a startup in banking, and that's how we define ourselves. We are a day zero bank, and we love to be nimble. We love to call ourselves small, because compared to two giants who are sitting on my left and right, in the physical world, we have a much smaller branch network, customer base than two of my friends on either side. And so for us, we had to do something which was different to find our growth path. Choice was either we follow the footsteps of some of the larger banks or we find our own new way to grow. We chose digital as the growth engine for us rather than going through the branch network and sales, while branch has its own value. But we couldn't have played the same game and hope that we can really be better at that. So I think for us, that's been the journey. Like my friend Jiten was talking about 811. So I think things like those which we build digital as our growth engine for acquiring customers, serving customers, ensuring that digital starts to become not just an alternate channel, but becomes the key growth driver for the firm. And the journey for us last 6 to 7 years has been reasonably successful. I won't say we have arrived because digital presents a new challenge every day. likes of Jupiter. They come and tell us, listen, how experience can help you win the day, and then you find some marketplace and then some PSP apps like Google Pays and Phone Pays. They tell you how the payment experience is getting disintermediated. So rather than feeling proud or happy about what we have achieved, we are always, I would say, a bit restless about the opportunities that lies ahead of us and what we need to do better to stay relevant in today's age and time when customers have a lot of choice. And I think to that extent, as I said, the journey is continuing. Digital has become more of a fabric for us. It's not a center of excellence. We expect that 70,000 employees of ours, they all become digital. And I'm happy when every business, ops, compliance, risk, when they all start to think digital and they say how we can use technology to change the way we do things in a better, faster manner. I can't rattle, obviously, the kind of stats that my friend Samir said, but all I can say is today for us, about 75% of customers that we acquire are digital. Among all the Indian banks, that's the largest, even on absolute number, not in terms of percentage of customers. But because we don't have much of a choice, as I said at the beginning. 98% of all our transactions are digital. So only 2% of the transaction happens outside in the physical space. But yes, I think we are all playing the game and we are all trying to stay relevant. We are not competing against another bank. I think we are all trying to be more relevant to the customers that we serve.
Thank you. Thank you. I think HDFC Bank is moving like a rocket ship, right? So any thoughts? We discussed in the chat in the morning as well. So maybe insights will be useful because he says he's from a small bank, right?
I know, I worked in that bank incidentally, so I set up the
And
technology
we all
there as
worked.
well.
So I think we were actually sequenced. I was the first, then you, then I think the same word, right? So good.
No, first of all, I think, look, number one, I think the comparisons don't matter. There is space for everybody in the market, okay? And one has to realize that. I keep seeing this versus that and this versus that. I mean, India is what? It's still a large market, so much to do. Everybody, today, in fact, what? 10 I spoke about in the morning, 10-member startup can compete with us and absolutely on equal footing. I mean, and I'm saying this because I've run a 40-member startup. You know, I started with a 10-member startup in my life, right? So I understand how this works. But at a larger level, I think what we see is the way we see the journey of a bank, if you look at our bank, and that's what I would like to go back to, with no comparisons on either side. I think we've had our moment in 2020. We were very clear that that's going to be a benchmark for how we move forward. And not kind of be ashamed about saying that we are not the best. Okay. And I want to be very clear about it. Because a lot of times, you know, there is this whole thing, I'm the best and, you know, we are this. Nobody is best, actually. Finally, the customer decides at that point of time what you're doing, right? And that's where I think, fundamentally, I think, and I spoke about it in the morning also, that I believe banks have to go 20 years back to attack the core banking. Because everything else around it is going to be meaningless. Because you can put any skin, any digitization, because finally the bugger will come and hit that one database. And that database will go down. Okay, that is the reality. Okay, we can keep going around. So for us, I think the digital transformation started from the center, actually. So we looked at, actually, not an outside in, we looked at an inside out. So our first, in fact, that's where we are going now. Most of our work on the digital side, Samir, is happening on the inside side, on the core banking side. Because changing the skin and putting the front end is very easy, actually. But changing the core is going to be that much more difficult, okay? I think, and that journey has been very good. I spoke about it in terms of the kind of philosophical approach we have taken to build factories. We've done some very interesting experimentations on following the core, which I spoke about again in the morning. And I think once you get that, then the businesses are so, you know, let's say, armed with the power that they can go and sell anything. And I think the real two people who really decide how good your digital, one is the customer, other is your own businesses. We have not gone on a separate digital model only because of that, because we believe that every single business unit has to be digitally enabled. So it's a slightly different philosophy. But I think it's kind of, every bank has its own way of looking at things. So from that perspective, I think we provide the digital and the tech teams provide the kind of power to the businesses, and we drive the business strategy through the digital strategy through the businesses actually. And fair, like I said, I don't want to kind of reel out the success and the numbers and all. I think the journey is very long for us. I think we are still we started maybe 10%, 15% of the journey, a long way to go. But I think when we get there, we will get there on true foundational blocks actually.
Fantastic, fantastic. Sabya, आप क्या खरीदने वाले हो? Okay. I think you guys are expanding the kind of portfolio you created. I knew Perfios as maybe statement analyzer, and I don't know Perfios of today, right? क्या कर रहे हो, क्या करने वाले हो, and all this good stuff. So I think, and how you're enabling the banking ecosystem or lending ecosystem. I think we'll love to hear more about that.
Sure. Thanks, Amit. Thanks for having me here. First of all, I would like to say and express my thanks to all sitting on my right, because we are fortunate to work with all of them. And I think we started the journey long back working. And hence, I was connecting the dots when Samir spoke, Deepak spoke, Ramesh spoke, because we are part of those journeys, what the banks are looking to build. And pretty much, we learn every day from what the banks are trying to do. So it's super helpful to be working with all the guys here. So moving away from it, actually, as you have seen and heard that from the statement analyzer days, which was long back, which is like kind of, it is tough to, kind of break the brand distillery kind of thing, It's that kind of thing. Though we have started doing many things, but people still associate with that, right? It's same story of distillery. They no more sell only packaged drinking water. They do many things. But unfortunately, the first thing that comes when you associate distillery
your
is the
competitor
packaging.
also says, वही करते हैं जो Perfios करते हैं, right? But we are cheaper, right? That's how they define.
Yeah. So, anyways, I mean, competition is always good because you are on the toes. But what we did largely, as a corporate philosophy perspective, is we tried to move to an ambidextrous strategy. I call it ambidextrous strategy, which is nothing but while we create more features on the products that we already had, which is more kind of adding on to benefit the journeys that already exist, how to make it more powerful, more enabling. But there is a separate unit which works very independently from BAU, and they are not sucked into the BAU, and which I think all of them will relate to, is that they are supposed to create category creating products. That is not supposed to be what is the requirement by any of them today. What they will need after 2 years or after 3 years, which clearly distinguishes us over the rest. Right? So that's what we moved about 2 years back, 3 years, just pre-COVID, I think we decided, and we created those units. So there are units which only focuses on the future building products, which is not in the market today, which people have not heard about, and some which is on a daily basis, the BAU improvement that we keep doing. So that's at a strategy level. The next what we did was we created product verticals so as to also create an impression in the market that we are very focused on all the product lines that we have. So first, from one pointed product, today we have end-to-end customer lifecycle management products, which starts from origination, sourcing rather, I would categorize it there, which is including the leads and enabling the business funnel, and going up to, if I just have to restrict for a moment on the lending use case, up to collections. So there are about 9 buckets of products, and we have created 9 verticals addressing those buckets. So whatever you need in decisioning, you will find. Whatever you need in onboarding, you will find. Whatever in sourcing, you will find. Whatever in monitoring, you will find. Likewise, in collections, you will find. So that's the clear distinction that we did, which itself is kind of giving a lot of push and impetus to the respective functions to go out and try new things. And last, first of all, we kind of enable the ecosystem to take data-backed decisions in real time. That's what we principally believe. And when we say, we don't say only lending decisions. So that is also something which we're trying to say. It is also the liabilities decision. It is also the
थोड़ा
treasury
time
decision.
लगेगा. I think
So-
पहले वहाँ से account aggregator से उससे account statement analysis you have
Yeah.
to move towards this
Yeah.
and then to other segments. But yeah, I agree there are more use cases around it.
Absolutely. So that's how we have been focusing, and that's how every step that we take is supposed to be digital, and how do we facilitate more digital and financial inclusion in the country, with obviously the bankers present here. That's super important. It's not that we will ever get into lending ourselves. That's never the belief. We'll always stay neutral and facilitate and enable the FIs to build more and more powerful journeys.
And do boring business, right? It is boring business. Nobody knows what you do, but what you do is brilliant. I think that's what helps the market grow. So I think Raju and you are in really boring business, right? Nothing to do, no sexy stuff. You're building LMS, LOS kind of structure, which is back end. I think कैसे करते हो और क्या करते हो? Because one of the things which I realized is that I met Bajaj guys, and आधा statement of the Bajaj guys was only about parent ये करता है, parent ये करता है, parent ये करता है. So I think you want to hear करते क्या हो और कैसे करते हो?
Right. No, thank you so much for giving this opportunity, Samir, and talking along with the three large banking giants here. So it's been a wonderful time. So in terms of digital as a word, we've been hearing for quite some time, and as Mr. Ramesh has said, so many times digital means it is about giving a nice skin mobile app or giving a good digital front end, but many of the times these things did not work. Primarily because the core platforms either they did not support or they were not able to run at the speed, the front end or the channels that you wanted to digitize. That's secondary reason. Third, the technology that's used by these core platforms did not support even if they wanted, right? So I think these are the top, there are many I can, 4, 5, 6 I can talk, but these are 1, 2, 3 which have actually challenged the digital transformation projects, and people have failed. Some have been successful, but people have failed. With the Bajaj journey that we have done in India, Bajaj was one of our first customer. Typically, when we started company Pennant a few years back, we never had a focus India as a market, but with Bajaj, our journey started. So exactly the core point what team have just spoken. So Bajaj, when they wanted to start their first digital Bajaj marketplace, the only thing, the call that internal team had taken was to go with the replacement of the core for the digital channels. That was one of the important decisions that they made. They never wanted to go back to the existing core and build APIs and make a nice skin. And this is one of the core benefit, that Pennant was able to operate, while working with Bajaj. And the journey worked. And today we operate many of the products for the Bajaj from a core platform perspective. We also do some of their digital journeys on the LOS side, but our strength has been a core digital platform. And from our growth perspective, where we focus, I think is scalability and configurability and flexibility. These are like, buzzwords that, we all talk. So many of the times, the scalability, people think that, it will only come if it is a robust platform, which only can do 1, 2, 3. But I think the important thing that we were able to offer to the market, both in India and outside India, the scale with the flexibility and configurability. I think this has been our core, philosophy, the way we built our product. And that actually helped us to come today, and I'm quite happy to be sitting here. And the credit goes to the platform that we are able to build and able to work with some of the giants, and we are in the process of, making bigger inroads. And yeah, thank you, Samir. That's what I would talk.
Thank you. Thank you. So how is the journey of building digital for retail? Primarily, you also done partnering with neobanks, right? So you have gone digital and your app is as good as anybody else in the market, and now you're also saying that you're partnering with neobanks as well. So how is the journey? How is the thought process? And I think the question I asked Jitendra as well is that what is in it for the neobank and what is in it for the bank itself? And maybe you can talk a bit, because you also have Freecharge involved into the process as well. So what is the role of Freecharge as well will be good for us to understand.
Yeah, sure. So 3 questions, let me try to answer all. So first on partnerships, one of the early calls we made was that in the digital world, partnerships is going to be critical for us to scale and to win. And so we've been working on our stack for partners and also our operating model for partners for 3 years now. So we have a good developer portal. We have about 350 APIs which are exposed. And APIs, and by the way we thought of partner journeys is that if we work with a partner, then acquiring the customer and servicing the customer end to end should happen on the partner platform. So if you take a loan, you should be able to service the loan as well. You don't need to come to my platform to service the loan, you can do it at the partner itself. And this principle we've taken across products. So whether it is savings accounts, current accounts, credit cards, loans, forex, etc., etc., etc. Almost all our products are now, including corporate banking, by the way, we have now APIs and working reasonably well actually. Uh, so that's on partners. On neobanks themselves, actually we don't work with any right now as we speak. We have one partnership with Open, which is live, but that's less. That's not so much neobanking. That's slightly different. And there are some actually for us, the challenge in working with neobanks has been regulation more than anything else. So we were actually quite ready, but then the co-branded guidelines, etc., came in, and we then kind of have put this in a back burner. But then on other partnerships, we are very large. Like with Flipkart, we've acquired millions of cards. We have loan partnerships. We have other, acquisition partnerships. We are working quite well. On Freecharge, so Freecharge is an independent company. It is positioned. Freecharge started as a payments app, but we are positioning Freecharge as an independent financial services entity. Today, if you go to Freecharge, you can get a credit card, you can get a loan, you can get a mutual fund, you can get insurance, etc., etc. Freecharge Neobank was in beta testing when the guidelines came, and we've since pulled it back because we are not able to find a way to kind of make it compliant. But from a tech stack perspective, it is ready. And soon you will see, like one of the products that is scaling up really well on Flipkart is what we call merchant cash. So what we do is Freecharge goes and puts a QR at the merchant. On the back of transactions that the QR is being made on the QR, we give a loan to the merchant, which gets settled again on the back of transactions on the QR. So these type of products Freecharge is working on, and we are hoping to see it scale significantly.
Maybe you can also talk about your corporate side, right? We've seen your ads on paper as well. So any quick insights on the work you're doing on the corporate side?
Yeah, so corporate digital for us is work in process. The first version of our corporate digital was launched in August, and which is why we did these advertisements around October, November. So our kind of insight on corporate is that, corporates work on their ERPs. So if you are the procurement function, you will procure something on your ERP, and it will go to the finance function on the ERP. Typically what happens is that after everything happens on ERP, the finance guy has to open up the corporate internet banking and do something there. What we are trying to do is to say that you don't need to do that. You can kind of even pay from your ERP itself. And so we've created a number of APIs around payments, around trade, around Forex, which can integrate directly to the corporate CRPs, and transactions can flow directly. So that is one area of work. The second is our corporate internet banking is, I would say, many years behind our retail internet banking. Or our corporate mobile is many years behind our retail mobile. Just in terms of both the products and journeys, which is how does the core perform, as well as in terms of the experience, which is, customer experience and so on and so forth. And so we've started a big effort to modernize our corporate digital. First version, again, just going live as we speak. And over the next 12 months, we should see significant amounts come there.
I think so. So basically, transition is happening from pure retail side innovation to maybe corporate or MSME as well. Maybe Deepak, I'll extend the same question to you. I mean, Kotak 811, we know, right? Retail business is known. You guys are doing fab stuff. And my wife is an account holder, and she holds decent amount of money. We typically say that these Kotak 811 में ज़्यादा पैसा नहीं होगा, लोग रखते हैं, right? So any other innovation which is happening beyond this specific segment of retail side, maybe on MSME side or corporate side, which Kotak is working on, and maybe because they gave added, everybody talks about it, but if there is something which you guys are working on, we should know about.
So like any bank, there are a lot of things which are at different stages, right? So at this juncture, difficult to tell you what all is going to get unveiled, but yes, there are a lot of things which are at different stages. 811 obviously is something we did many years ago, but we also launched another platform about a year back, It's called Cherry. Cherry was built as an open investment ecosystem. It's not built within the bank because regulatorily we couldn't do a lot of things in the bank. So this was built in another part of the group company where you can link any bank account and you can just come in and manage your money better. So be it bonds, mutual funds, equity, corporate deposits. And this is an open ecosystem, so this does not restrict you only with the products that Kotak manufactures. But the idea is to give customer a fintech-like experience. So instead of you going to a Grow or a Zerodhas and any of those partners, the idea was that we are the largest wealth management and private banking player in the country. But then those are only for affluent and high net worth customers. We said, how do we democratize the wealth management and bring in the same level of access to product, advisory, solution that is probably given to customers who have a $5 to $10 million of investable surplus to someone who also wants to invest 50,000 rupees or 1 lakh rupees. So the whole idea of building that as a part of our core investment platform is how we brought Cherry in. It's going through certain phases of fitting in for the right TGs at different places, but it's an amazing platform. For those who have not tried, check it out, Kotak Cherry. So that's something which is out. Similar stuff we unveiled for small business and large corporates called Fin. Fin is an integrated platform which brings in cash management, trade, forex solution all into one. We brought in something similar for small businesses called Kotak One and Kotak Biz, which is again an integrated POS and lending and current account and business banking solution. So idea is we have moved away from products and apps to creating platforms which are more integrated and more holistic, looking at customer segments, because we believe that products will come and products will go. But I think understanding the customer end-to-end needs, right from onboarding to the whole life cycle management, to bringing in different products, both manufactured by the banks and curated by the banks through partners, are here to stay. But unlike obviously some of the other banks, our position here has been slightly different. While we love to work with fintechs and startup ecosystem, but we believe that we are the biggest fintech of all. And to that extent, the mindset of being a day zero company in building, scaling up, creating solution, where we continue to keep the engagement layer with us, rather than disintermediate the engagement layer to a partner. I think that has been our driving force, and that's why you wouldn't see Kotak probably as prominent a player where we are the backend API layer or we're just giving them banking as a service, because somewhere we believe that as a bank we can play the game and we can win. And that's why not just 811 but all these other platforms that I spoke about, and quite a few more are at different stages that we'll unveil in next 6 to 12 months.
Absolutely. I think this is what my perspective was, that you have a very assertive view of digital, and I think it's very, very prominent. Maybe this is a different question to you, Ramesh, is that we talk about digital and we talk about platform, but उसको बनाने के लिए तो humans ही लगते हैं, right? और humans आपके और मेरे जैसे ही हैं. So you have one of the most challenging jobs in the country, maybe in the world, of building a digital bank in the largest private bank in the country, right? So what is journey like? At personal level पे how do you manage so much of chaos? How do you control? What is advice for any new maybe CIO who's trying to get into this journey? You have already been there in this journey for past few years. Mind you, he has not picked my call for years. Okay, so I know how busy he has been. So how?
Samir, I don't pick your calls, but I do reply back to your messages. Okay, so I think I'm glad that you asked this question because it's a little away from technology in that sense and digital and all of that stuff. I think the toughest challenge that we are facing today, it's not about what we want to create as an industry, but it's about getting the right skills and building a right ecosystem that can kind of, fledge over a period of time. I think few things that come to mind. Of course, like I said, I'm very strong believer in engineering being the center of all of the growth. Because if you can't code, if you can't architect, if you can't design, I mean, you can keep talking about whatever you want to, but that's fundamental, right? And banks have been guilty of that. You can't just kind of get some partners, integrate, project manage it, and then go in front and say, I've got a great digital story. It doesn't work like that, okay? I think but then doing the part that I'm talking about, getting the talent, getting the engineering skills is very difficult because then you are competing with a very different set of players. Your competition, and not just competition, called the pool itself is very different. How do you attract a guy who's probably, coded in a startup, on a machine learning model to come to an HDFC bank where, it will take him 3 days to get his, cloud instance, ready, right? I mean, it's that kind of a dichotomy that you live with. So I think fundamentally the journey starts with believing that you can do that, number one. Number two, I think you have to create the right ecosystem. I spoke about, again, in the morning that, look, one, of course, a lot of our new talent is coming in a way that I'm not building it centrally. Very clear that building large central teams is a waste of time. There's a lot of political stuff that goes on, a lot of negative energy that goes around. You would rather put people away from these centers, let them work independently because they come with an independent thought. So most, like I spoke about in the morning about our factory approach actually, I think that's been a very refreshing change to my mind, and that kind of keeps the ideas also coming. I spend almost 2 to 3 weeks, literally in terms of pushing the change agenda. I'm spent a lot of time in Bangalore now, and that's what keeps you kind of going because you're clearly seeing the kind of roles, the wheels kind of moving quite fast. But, having said that, the question also came in the morning that, if you try and do that, you're going to kind of also create a let's say, digitally unequal society within your own company, which is not great because you have got a set of people who've believed in you, who've kind of worked with you for years together. So that's the other side that you carry. And that's where I think the modernization thought process and that question came in the morning, which is very interesting, saying, how have you looked at those people and those set of people? And I spoke about it saying, I did 2 projects, which one was in trade, rewrite, and one on collateral lending platform. Both traditional SQL, Oracle, forms, some of them were client server platforms. And we just said, let's lift it and put it into cloud and through the existing teams. They will be guided, they will get onto Udemy's, they will take their certifications, there will be cloud service professionals coming and helping them to kind of make that change. They will understand DevOps, Agile, but they will do it. And I think that's a fundamental bridge that you're building, and that's fascinating. So those are the 2 sides of the work. The third part is, while you're doing all of that, the legacy can't fall apart. I mean, every day you have to be at it. I mean, I can tell you, I get up every day at 3:30 in the morning, okay? Because my first reaction is everything working in the bank? And you have to do it. You have to be passionate about it. You can't just say, oh, why am I doing this and stuff like that. But then after that, the scale at which a bank like there's an engineering behind it. Every 30 minutes, you have to be on your MIS across your digital platforms. You have to look at obsolescence. I think we're staring at a very big story on obsolescence, and a lot of banks are going to follow us. And I'm just saying this because I know what hit us 2 years back. When 30-40% of the bank systems are obsolete, regulator is going to pick up and slap you, and your own customers, because it's not going to scale up, right? So I think the focus on obsolescence is very, very important. The focus on scale, building scale. Like you have to think 6 months ahead on capacity planning. So I think obsolescence, resilience, and observability, that's the third part. And that's part of the run the banks thing. And you have to continuously be at it. You cannot take your eyes off even for a day. So the way I see is that there's a new shoot that's coming up. There's a set of existing guys who are getting transformed. And there's a bunch of guys who are holding your existing platform. And then when all of them come together, and that's a fascinating journey that I, as a CIO, carry, that just taking all the three teams together and kind of creating a journey that's beautiful. And that's the challenge at this scale. And then the mission is far greater, right? You want to be there as one of the best digital banks. You know? So I think it's a more of of the vision and the people around it and the way you go about putting that strategy together. So I thought,
बहुत टफ है, कोई jealousy नहीं है आपके रोल से. मैंने 3.5, I have spent 3.5 years as a CTO, and I think it from a learning process great, but on the job it's tough for family. And I remember my mobile was never off, it was always charged and always on very loud voice. कब क्या फट जाए पता नहीं है. Okay. And my view to the top management was, अगर कुछ भी फटता है तो मैं ही जाऊंगा, right? So don't worry, right? So anyway, so Sabya, from your perspective, I think you have been on from a account statement analyzer. I think you have played the pivotal role, and now account aggregator is coming. So maybe you could talk about the use cases which will get built around them, and what is the strategy bank should have to utilize this phenomenal data. It's two-way data, right? जा भी रहा है और आ भी रहा है. तो जाते का छोड़ देते हैं, आते का क्या कर सकते हैं?
Okay. I think the first thing that we are seeing overall as an ecosystem, over the last couple of months, we see about 100% growth month on month, which is definitely a very big number, so to say. Now, what I think that the bank strategy is and should be, a lot of banks here are already doing and using it in a right way. So I think it's a multi-phase strategy, right? So obviously because of 100% growth or not, the first thing that comes top of the mind is the higher probability of retail customers giving her consent and with a click of few buttons, getting whatever the financial services that they want on the retail side. So I would say the first phase, without too much thinking, is the retail use cases. Now, when we say retail, what is it? So I think within retail also, phase one, part A, should be the STP journeys, which you can build, and banks are building. Some have built successfully, some are working, functioning as expected. Some needs a little bit of tweak because everybody is learning in this ecosystem, right? So I think that's the first phase one, part A, which is retail STP. The next is retail assisted, which is both within the bank and the external partners that you work with, which typically erstwhile we used to call it DSL-led or partner-led. So that needs to also come in the ecosystem because there is still a lot of paper flow or the physical files that moves during the day, which we don't realize, but it does. How can that come over to this ecosystem? I think banks are trying enough and building journeys with the right partners. So that's the second one. Third is the learnings of retail and the assisted one should be applied and timed well on the SME side. Because you can't jump onto SME because it has its own kind of complexity, and probably the GSTN coming as an FIP would also facilitate it to the next level. So I think you have to time it well, and I think banks are looking forward to it. Now, when we look at the retail, what comes top of the mind is the low-hanging fruit, which is consumer durables, BNPL, because when we go to shop or buy anything from a mall, we don't carry a checkbook and any of those sorts. So it's very clear and evident. You give a consent and there are workarounds which there are NBFCs or large NBFCs who have worked fine. I think banks have a definite bigger play where they have been missing that significant chunk. They can definitely get on. So that's a big one. Followed by the, I would say, the auto loans, both on two-wheeler and four-wheeler. A lot of segment which was missing, banks were unable to reach. I think it definitely plays a bigger role to take a stab at that. The third one is even on personal loan, I think there's certain segments at the lower part of the spectrum, banks were unwilling to touch. One is because of the credit risk that it poses. Second is because the acquisition of data itself was challenging on its own. At least one part has been resolved, and if there is a right credit model that the bank is willing to invest in, I think that's a big opportunity which opens up. So these are top 3 or 4 that comes from a use case perspective. However, what is interesting and I would like to stress upon is that uh, any institution for the matter, why bank, anybody who would use an A shouldn't focus just on kind of decisioning part, which is typically everybody is looking at. I would say that it should be made to use for appropriate onboarding. That means there is an improvement in the CX which you can do, which will give a higher conversion rate and lower drop-offs, better decisioning, and hence overall cost efficiency. So definitely you need to consider. I don't think people are considering investing so much in the CX, which becomes the primary swim lane through A. So that is something that everybody has to think. So while that is one, next is monitoring, I think, which is another big use case. Somewhat people are kind of thinking, but nobody, I have not seen very concrete decisions on those because unfortunately we think that monitoring is for large ticket. That's not true. Maybe more from regulatory aspect that is mandatory, but from your own credit quality perspective, you would want to monitor. Given there is a possibility now, I think when a bank is onboarding a customer, you need to take two consent. One for onboarding, the second is for monitoring. And if you take it at the right stage when you are onboarding, I think life will be pretty simple. Yes, there are certain bit of tweaks. Overall, how the A framework has been built is required. But I think if all of this is done, I think it is immensely powerful and it will set the stage for the future.
Thank you. Thank you, Sabir. So maybe moving to core platform, right? I remember those days where I used to run obviously the core platforms, and the lending already had always had one problem. It never had a front end. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 years back, there was no front end for this. You only had for retail banking, only the liability side. And all top of that, जो था onboarding journey नहीं था, that was also not there. And the partner तो था ही नहीं, right? So you had a backend, and then वो किसका lending platform month end बंद हो जाता है? नहीं, nobody acknowledge. Maybe it is not happening now, but मेरे बैंक का हो जाता था. So I think from a journey of a maybe LMS platform, which used to be loan management system platform, which used to have just a backend and an Excel dated uploads, to a stage where right now we are expecting it to not just service its own channels, not just service its partner channels, but I don't know how many all new variances which are coming from EMI to maybe now EDI to any date, any amount kind of stuff. So how do you build for it? How should the bank approach should be for building it itself?
Yeah, that's the right question, Samir. So in terms of like, I still remember like 8 years back, we've shown our platform to one of the customer in Middle East. First thing he said, who's going to use a daily repayment schedule? Why do you see a daily? Then someone said, you have a weekly. Why do you have a weekly? Someone questioned, you have a fortnightly and you have every 15 days, right? These were the questions that, people used to ask. They said, please switch it off. We only do monthly. I want to see monthly. And I said, okay, you just configure monthly, you're going to see monthly. No, even in configuration, I don't want my, IT to do a mistake of, configuring this loan as a daily. So that was the situation, we came from. And today, people come up, after doing so much of variants. And other day, we were talking to another partner. They said, they want to have loan repayment on every first Wednesday of the month. Okay, so or every Thursday of the month, So that's where I think we as a platform, we are able to facilitate some of our partnerships in India, and where they're able to deliver this kind of a differentiated experience to the customers, right? That's one part. The second important part, again, can a customer do themselves, simulate this, see the benefit, compare, and then actually take it onboarding there and then. And we are not going to have a situation that, we have a EMI calculator on the bank's website, and I'm not questioning some of the banks here, but still, I think there are a large part of the country in the banks, I see there's a EMI calculator. The EMI that is projected never matches with the EMI finally the customer gets. Right, I think this is one of the first problem that we were able to solve in our onboarding journey, plus the core LMS. So wherein even when a customer comes, ask for a personal loan for 24 months, we don't just do PMT and calculate the EMI. We actually go to the core, just do a what if inquiry, present something that is going to be exactly the same amount he's going to get. So this is something that we were able to do. And many of the times, my personal experience with the banks in India, the digital onboarding journeys, as Sabir was saying, is completely transformed. But the servicing aspect, even today, it's really poor, wherein for a simple transaction on a loan, need not to be, I don't need to walk into the branch, right? I should be able to simulate, right? Simulation is very important because I want to see what it is going to be. It is not like, we build a form, we ask for amount, and we take it to the payment gateway, take the payment and say thank you very much. But I think what customers, as a customer, I expect is that I want to see if I make this payment, how is my repayment schedule is going to get changed. And this is what is, I think, the true digital experience that, we want to deliver to the customers in India. And it's been, successful with some partners. And some of the new partners that we started working, that they started talking about zero ops. So this is, I think, is the next thing that, we are looking at, wherein as you scale from a 10 lakh book to a 10 crore book, you can't scale your operations, right? And today the human capital, we say India is the, we have so much of population, but I think the trained talent on managing systems in the back end and ops shop, forget about, hiring a Java programmer, but hiring a good ops staff who are able to do things on a business application is also a big problem, right? So we have to solve that, wherein a lot of self-servicing customer can do, simulate it, do it, and commit the transaction, which is hitting in the backend, and he is able to see back on the screen. And then there is no double reconciliation. We always think that whenever we go to the bank, we always talk about recon system. Anything that we can't do digitally, we go put it back to the recon system, right? So we wait for the recon system to do wonders, but many times that is going to increase more people and more challenges. These are some of the challenges that I personally seen, me working in the banks, and I think it's still continuing. It is a long journey. But having said that, the last contract that we signed, we actually digitally signed the contract. The entire agreement for our project was signed digitally with Aadhaar OTP. I think we were able to reach to that stage in India. I'm quite happy and happy to be part of the journey. Yeah. Thanks, Amir.
Thank you. Thank you. I know I'm looking like evil. I told you not to listen to anyone, including me. Don't look at me. So maybe we'll take one question from the forum, right? Okay. Yeah, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, am I audible? Yeah. Okay, so first of all, Samir, congratulations. This is an amazing event. Happy to be a part of it. Let's hear it for Samir, guys. Everyone, yeah? Yeah, thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Great, yeah? Okay, honestly, I've been a customer with all the banks, right? My corporate account is with Axis. I have with HDFC. I also have with Kotak, right? And I'll kind of go back to what... So I actually had sales for a company called Case of BPO. We are into boutique call center services, right? And I've been a part of the organization for the last 17 years. Been 10 years in operations, last 7 years doing sales. Every time I go to a customer and he says, I need people, the first thing he says, I need people who actually have an experience of like Amex. Yeah, no one talks about a bank in India, right? Which simply means that the amount of servicing that we're supposed to do at the bank level, it just needs to be uplifted, right? It's just I'm just sharing the experience, right? None of even the B2B customers today, right? They not even look at the banks that, that could be benchmarked as a right customer experience, right? So whilst I'm so happy to know from all of you that there's a lot of things being done on digitalizing the process, improving the customer experience on the digital side. But I think once you reach to the bank, whether you actually go to the branch or want to speak to them in person, I think there's a lot of change that has to be done. So I think that's an overview from my side, yeah.
I think, but I think it's a very relevant point, Samir. I think, the service actually sucks. Actually, that's the reality. If you go to a branch, and everybody will tell you, and that's reality. And I think I'm not talking from the industry perspective, but it's a very, very core element because our technology investments into servicing, we've been very digitally sales driven. And I just wanted to bring that point. And it's something that, if you go back to our own companies also, you will find that acquisition, all of that origination is always given preference. While actually kind of managing the service side of the technology. I mean, today also very old collection dialers, pretty much, IVRs outdated where, you keep hanging on the tree actually, literally so to say. I think it's a very pertinent point, but I think there's work happening. I think the way the AML, journey is coming through on the bot side, the way the customer experience unification is coming, But I think it's still some way to go. And also the service culture, the focus from the management, the service, it will evolve. I think we are still a young banking country compared to some of the global peers that we spoke about. And by the way, the global peers are not great. I'm not kind of saying that, while we keep, it's not that everything is hunky-dory out there. But I think over a period of time, I think this will settle down. Service will become the single biggest driver for banking relationships. So that's what I just thought I'll respond on that.
Check.
No. We run out of time, but I think the quick pointer to you would be that all the way the foreign consulting firm told us, because they told us, we think about US because we have seen those movies, Hollywood, the Bollywood. So I think lot of bias we have is about Americans and what they do. ये reality है. आज भी हम accent में बोलना चाहते हैं because it's American, right? So I think there's this bit of a inferiority or a slavery which we have in our mind that might be got to do it. And actually, if you take 2.9% MDR, you can get away with a lot of it, right? So just be conscious of the cost of it. I think about the cost which we have in India, in the kind of interchange we have, it's dramatically different. Anyway, the pointer you had on the service side, I think I just close it with this, that we were told that the front office guys should be sales guys, and then all the services will be back end. You would see in next 3 to 5 years that all sales will be digital and all services will be physical. So the branches will be actually service points left, not the way it is right now. We have been taught incorrectly with the taught wrong guys and we're just copying it. So it should change ideally, but I have very vocal views on that. But anyway, I'll stop now. But thank you guys. I think, I know this crowd is not for me. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you.